Josh Phillips, welcome to Leading in the Dark.
Thank you. Good to be here. Pleasure.
So you are a private with the St. Louis City Fire Department. You're a SWAT medic, swiftwater rescue instructor, confined space rescue instructor, part of Missouri Task Force 1, and currently instructing at the Fire Academy. Did I miss anything?
No, I juggle a lot of different jobs. Teaching is one of them, so I work for quite a few companies. TAC medic, yep. PT instructor for the department. And I think you covered the important stuff.
Is that what a typical fireman in the city, would they list off that many things, or are you an overachiever?
I guess you could call me an overachiever. I just enjoy the job a lot. Luckily for me, there's a lot of different avenues within the fire service that you can find yourself going down that path and becoming specialized in certain different categories. So I've just happened to fall into a bunch of them. So it's been a gift to be able to have all these different angles and varieties and spices, if you will, of the career. So it's kept me super interested. It's been a hell of a good ride.
So going back to the beginning, why did you choose pursuing being a fireman as opposed to police, for example?
To tell you the truth, it was by accident. I never grew up wanting to become a fireman. I didn't really know all what that entailed and what that looked like. I had a friend in high school that was involved as a volunteer at a local department, and we just got to talking, and every once in a while I'd be like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? Or we want to go camping? You want to get out and we go floating? And he'd be like, oh, I can't, I'm going rappelling. And I'd be like, you're going rappelling? I'm like, who are you going rappelling with? And he's like, oh, the fire department. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you guys did that. And he's like, yeah. And then the next time I'd talk to him, he'd say, oh, I can't make it out this weekend, or I got to cancel on you. And he's like, we're going to do some swiftwater training. And I was like, where are you doing swiftwater training at? And he's all for the fire department, go down to the rivers. And it just kept going from there in terms of confined space, and then rope rescue and swiftwater rescue and boat operations. And he just kept naming on things. I was like, what all do you guys actually do? And so I was like, that sounds really cool. I'd like to be a part of that. So I found out what it meant to become a firefighter for local areas, a little bit of education, schooling, and some medical licenses. And then you start applying. So I got lucky. I took a test for the St. Louis Fire Department back in 2001, I believe, but I didn't get called upon or a letter in the mail till about 2007. So
really? So 6 years?
Yeah. It was, I'm not sure what the true reasoning behind the wait was. I think there was a lot of political things going on at the time, but yeah, I had to wait it out. So meanwhile, prior to that, I did volunteer and I worked part-time for another fire department and got to learn some of the ropes and got to understand what the service really entailed and looked like. And it helped propose me forward when I started taking a bunch of classes and learning what everything was, what it looked like, what I wanted my career to look like. And then when I got the letter for the St. Louis Fire Department, it changed dramatically because it was a much different experience working for the St. Louis Fire Department versus a local fire department a little further out.
So what does it look like to get started? You decide that you want to be a fireman. What do you, is there like an online listing for the city that says they're hiring and you apply, and that 6-year wait aside, what's the whole process before you actually are badged a fireman?
It depends on the department itself. If you work for a major metropolitan or a municipal fire department, usually they just, every so many years, they'll put on a hiring list. And you'll go down to probably the city hall and apply for that position. And then it'll be like a step process over months of time, but an application process, an interview process, a physical agility test, things like that. And then depending on if they have criteria or credentials for you to get a job, like for our department, we don't really have any criteria for you to apply. It just requires that you have a high school diploma or a GED. But some other departments that are around us, they require you to have your Fire 1 and 2, which are state certifications that you usually get through an academy, and you also be a licensed paramedic. So there's quite a bit more educational requirements for you to get on some of the other departments' jobs.
But there is an academy with the St. Louis City.
Yes, we host our own academy, so that's why we really don't have any requirements for people to get on the job. We'll take a kid out of high school or in his 20s, and we'll put him through a 22 to 24 week academy, which is like a 5-day a week, 6 a.m. to almost 6 p.m. Monday through Friday gig for weeks and weeks. And we basically give them all their education there. We'll give them their Fire 1 and 2, and they'll begin their EMT courses and all that. So
what was your academy experience like? Have some elements of a boot camp type atmosphere?
Yeah, it did. The St. Louis Fire Department tries to pride itself on being a paramilitary department. So what that kind of looks like then is, yeah, in the morning when you do roll call, you're in your full uniform that you're issued at the time. Your boots have to be shined. Your pen has to be in a certain pocket. Everything's got to be uniform. And the way you walk and the way you talk and the way you move and how you direct individuals, it's all very strict and disciplined, really. There's always sir and ma'am. You're saluting your leadership when they come into a room. You stand at attention. It is very boot camp-ish. Yes.
So you mentioned a little bit of, you called it a paramilitary type approach, but I know some cities and the fire departments have a reputation, right? They have a history and a legacy
Sure.
about them, Boston, New York, these types of things. But St. Louis has a really strong history and culture in their fire department. Like it's a no nonsense department. So can you explain some of that history and the culture?
Yeah. So our department was founded in 1857. We are considered the third oldest paid career fire department in the country. So for us, yeah, our history and legacy and our justifiably proud is our motto. That tradition carries deep in our department, and we carry that very well.
Let me ask this question to maybe help. You guys are active, right? If you're on shift, you're probably not getting sleep.
Yeah, that depends on the company. We have busier companies and a little bit slower companies. But yeah, I've worked in some different areas that we run 15, 18 calls a day. And then I've been on some other assignments where we maybe average 5. What those look like on those 5, though, those could be fires, they could be scenes that you're there for hours and hours. So yeah, you very well may be up all night. Now, we do have what we call I guess we would call some retirement houses. So when guys get a little older and they've worked on the job for 25 years and they're looking to slow down, they have the opportunity to go to some engine houses that are a little bit slower so they can get some sleep at night occasionally. Yeah.
I'm just thinking from my naive perspective, you think about like the fire department where I live. When they're doing stuff, it's probably a lot of like car accidents or somebody's maybe having a heart attack and the fire department shows up too. I'm sure you guys do that as well, but you also deal with a lot of fires where other departments probably don't see that as much as you all.
That's true. I'd say that most major metropolitan fire departments see quite a bit more fires than local jurisdictions and departments do. And that just has to do with the population, the types of people in the neighborhoods, and just some of the chaos that happens in a major metropolitan department as opposed to a smaller, like a Crestwood or a Clayton or West County. So yeah, we do see a lot of fire, which is great for us in terms of doing the job, right? Because that's what we signed up to do. So for me, it's been a privilege to be able to say that I've fought a lot of fire over the last 18 years that I've been on the department.
Have you been in some that scared you?
100%. Yeah, a lot of them actually. I don't think you ever really get to a point where you're not scared. There'll be some more routine fires, which, maybe don't get your adrenaline spiked as much, or maybe it's a one-room burnout in a fire, so it doesn't require as much work from the teams. But every once in a while you get humbled again and have a real big, good fire that kicks your ass, basically.
What do you guys do in your training to help people overcome that fear? It's not a natural thing to run into a building that's blazing. How do you get folks to overcome that?
Well, some you can't. Those guys either don't make it on the job or they find other avenues within the department. But usually during your academies, you do a lot of live burn training in there and a lot of rescue scenarios and a lot of engine company operation trainings in there. So you slowly breed them into a little bit thicker smoke, a little bit more of a hot room. And then the next scenario, you'll make that scenario a little bit tougher, a little bit hotter. And then we have what we call confidence courses too. So we'll do it for confined spaces. We'll do it for live fire trainings where each step's a build up. So week after week, we build it up more and build it up more till you get a full scale, basically fire rescue evolution, and just kind of lead them down that path and guide them.
What's it like? Obviously you have all your protective equipment on, but I'm just imagine that doesn't shield you from the heat. When you're in there, do you feel it?
Yeah, 100% you feel it. Now, our personal protective equipment does protect us from a lot of heat and gas and smoke and all that nasty stuff that's burning. It does protect us quite a bit. But yeah, once you get to a point within a fire, you'll start feeling that heat. And we've had helmets melt. Essentially, the plastics on the helmets will melt. Our SCBA face mask is essentially, that's plastic. We've had those discolor and bubble up, I guess it would be the right terminology. But yeah, we definitely, a good hot fire too will push you to the ground. You won't be able to walk through a good, hot, smoky room. It'll push you to the floor.
Because it's so hot up at like your head level.
Yeah, yeah. So heat rises in a fire, and then what it'll do is it'll mushroom out into a room, and then it banks back down. And then once the room gets hot enough, it'll essentially roll over. Those heated gases will ignite, and that's obviously a very dangerous situation. But so usually you stay low, and you bring your tip in there with you, your water tip, and you can cool a room. That's how you help navigate through a fire.
Like, what is a situation? You get like a normal house fire, and that's probably, on a scale of 1 to 10 in complexity, might be on the lower end. What's a situation where you guys roll up, you're like, holy cow, we really got to be careful what we do here?
Yeah.
Like a chemical fire, or these are the scenarios that are like really dangerous?
Yeah, it all comes down to like our dispatch initially. If they try to give us as much information as they can receive, but so it may come over the dispatch as a building fire, and they'll give an address. And then once our guys arrive on scene, they give a size up of the situation, kind of to let everybody know that's coming, what we're looking at and what we've got. So you'll give a description of, we got a 2-story brick residence, looks to be occupied, fire on the 2nd floor, and they'll explain then what they're doing, 1 line off, or we're making the building, or whatever the direction is that they're about to go in. Now, from the dispatch, if they ever say there's a fire in a building and there's confirmed person's trapped, that's obviously right off the bat an adrenaline spiker, right? Because then now there's a lot more sense of urgency. The jobs kind of change. The rescue becomes a priority, at least for me on my apparatus. But yeah, if we know what the building is or what the address is, and it happens to be a commercial area, or it's more downtown, or it's in a chemical facility, or it's a plant, yeah, and depending on, those are always moments where you're like, okay, this may not be good.
In a situation where there's not people in there, what's the approach? Are you guys more just trying to get the fire out, or are you like prioritizing protecting property? What's that whole rank of priorities that you think about?
Obviously, life safety is the first one, and from there it's property. And the best thing we can do is if it is a fire, the best thing we do is put the fire out, right? To protect the property and the exposure properties next to it, and basically confine it. Right. And if there happens to be people in the house or trapped in a certain room, but they're not on the fire floor, obviously we want to get to them and get them out of there. But by putting that fire out, it helps facilitate that rescue a lot better, right? If we're cooling the flames and we're venting the buildings, letting all that hot gas and smoke out, obviously that's doing better for the people that are still trapped inside. So the priority is life safety and rescue, but at the same time, putting the fire out is right there with it on that tier, basically.
Yeah, I'm jumping around, but you get me curious about all these different types of scenarios. Do you all with the prevalence of electric vehicles, do you do like specific training of you have to treat like an electric vehicle fire differently than a gas vehicle fire?
Yeah, we do. For our job, obviously, it's ongoing education. It never ends, right? The technologies never end. Building construction never stops changing. Materials are changed within a facility or within a home, or plastics and synthetics. So we're constantly taking courses and classes and learning on the new advances in technology and new advances in materials and construction. So yeah, constantly learning on the new vehicles. Like obviously if Tesla comes out with a new vehicle, we'll sit down. There's online videos that help guide us through a lot of auto manufacturers as well, like Tesla or Toyota or whomever might be making that electric vehicle or hybrid vehicle. They've done a pretty good job over the years of giving kind of a guideline on there of what things to be aware of, where some of the dangers are, where some of the main electricity and the currents are running, so we don't cut on those pieces of the car, or where we can shut down power as best as possible. So yeah, it's always an ongoing learning process.
That's interesting. Do the auto manufacturers put that information out, or some other agency is putting out this training material?
A little bit of both. There actually has been auto manufacturers that have put out some really good training, online training that you can refer to and use as a resource. And then there's also been people that are doing their own homework, and usually fire rescue related people or at least of our equipment, like our spreaders and cutters, some of the manufacturers that make that stuff, they may go out there and do that so they can provide that training for us. If we're the ones purchasing their equipment, they want to be able to show us how to use it properly and in what areas and what vehicles does it work best with.
So I'm just trying to remember the timeline. You were not on during September 11th, right?
I was not yet.
Not yet.
That was a moving I was a volunteer at the time, but it was 9/11 was obviously a game changer for everybody. And it definitely motivated me to find something to do with my life and career choice that meant something more. From that moment, I definitely dug in deep to become a firefighter.
Does the history of that event, does it still permeate culture in fire departments?
Yes, very much. I think I can't believe how long it's been since that happened, but we've had a lot of guys retire in that time and a lot of newer guys that come on that weren't even born at that time. It's never forgotten, obviously, but I don't think it resonates as deep as it did years ago just because of the younger generation that's on the job that really didn't witness or live through those moments and see how it moved and shaped our country.
Do you all do anything, whether it's formal or informal, to really maintain the culture that you want within the department or any given house that you're assigned to?
I would say maybe not formally as a department, like it's not written in our rules, it's not in our standard operating guidelines to do, but there definitely is in individual houses or individual companies. There's a lot of, we call it company pride. And usually that has a lot to do with your work ethic, how you carry yourself as a company, meaning cleaning the truck all the time, cleaning the tools after every run, repainting your tools that match your company colors, everybody meet in uniform in terms of what their attire is that day and that they all look good. And then training's a big part of having company pride. Like I said, it's not assigned or it's not mandatory, some of these things that we do to keep that company pride, but just every morning going over the entire truck, literally opening every compartment on that truck and looking for every piece of equipment that is on that apparatus and knowing that it's exactly where it was the day before, or that if anything's missing or if anything's broken or that needs to be replaced, going over every single piece of equipment that you're either issued or that it's assigned to your house or your truck and cleaning it all. Clean the engine house every day. When we have chores, it's a house just like at home. We have chores every day and we have different assigned tasks to do each day to do around the engine house. It may just be cleaning the floors and the windows one day. It may be going out and cutting the grass and then coming in and cleaning the kitchen. And doing a good as an entire company or wherever, however many people are assigned at that engine house for that day, for everybody to do their share is very important, right? Whether it's at the engine house or on a run or on an emergency scene, everybody's hands in the pot is what makes everything flow well. And so for us, like in the morning, we may look like we come in and we go over the entire truck. It takes about 30 minutes or so for all of us to individually go over all the pieces of equipment in the entire truck and check our issued equipment. And then from there, we may go into cleaning the truck. Maybe the guys were up all night last night. It rained some, so we'll wash the entire truck. And we may open some compartments, pull all the equipment tools out, and clean that compartment and wipe down each tool. Or if they used an axe the night before on a roof and it's all dinged up and the paint's scraped off, or we'll sand it back down and clean it back up, oil the handles, and repaint our company colors back on the axe. And we try to do that after every incident that we utilize those tools because we want it. That's part of what we do to keep our company pride and to keep our integrity as a company.
And so how many individuals are on a shift, roughly, with you?
At my house, we have 10 guys that are there every day. There's 4 on an engine that's in our engine house, and there's 6 of us on a heavy rescue squad. So we call it a dual house. We have a lot of single engine company houses in the city, but we also have some double houses where numerous apparatus and men will be assigned to. So I work at a double engine house. So we have 10 that are assigned there all day.
So everything you just described about having that particular company culture to it or house culture to it, it strikes me that the blend of individuals is really critical to that working, right? Everybody's got to at least be able to get along. Maybe you don't like everybody, but the ability to work well with these individuals seems critically important. And where I'm going with this is you have your company, you have your house. When a new person might be getting assigned to you, do you have influence on accepting this person or not? So that's part of the question. But then even if it's not a new person, you have the people that you work on a shift with. Do you have influence on who those people are or not?
Yes and no. If it's a new guy, if a new guy's coming on a job, he's just graduating from the academy and he's getting assigned at our engine house, we may or may not had influence on picking him. Of course, I mean, ideally, we always want to have our hands in who's coming and who's going. So we do our best to recruit or do some reconnaissance on the guy and find out about his character, what his skills levels are, and just what type of person he is. And of course, we try to pick from people that we think would mirror and match our house and our culture, but we don't always have a choice. It depends on the guys there and the manpower and what chiefs up top are devising men across the board, across each shift. So we may get somebody that we didn't choose, and we may get somebody that we did handpick. Same thing for if guys are coming in and out of the house. Like, guy may work at our engine house for 15 years and decides he wants to go to another engine house. If he does that, there's a process, like almost like an application process. He's got to put in that he wants in or out and where he'd like to go. And then he's got barter with the chiefs and the captains and make an agreement that everybody's good with that guy coming to a different house. And with that being said too, if someone's leaving, that means somebody's probably coming in. So we'll do our best to try to recruit. If we know in time, we'll always try to give each other a heads up. Hey man, I'm just letting you guys know, next year I'm going to put in for a transfer. If we know that already, then we'll try to start recruiting who we want to come into the house and fill that spot. And obviously you always want to look for a good cook too. So recruiting a guy that's a good cook is always a priority.
I can imagine. It strikes me that this is one of the, at least to me from the outside, that like the most critical parts of the job and the leadership of your group. You get 10 people that spend 24 hours together doing incredibly difficult and dangerous stuff. And if you all don't get along as a team, I just imagine it's not going to work. Who's responsible for this? Is it like the captain? Like he's responsible for instilling the leadership and the core values? And how do you guys all manage that?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer because really, it all depends. It depends on the characters that are there. It depends on, essentially, our captain is the boss of the house. And he has a chief above him that might be the chief of an entire district. So he's got maybe 5 or 6 or 7 engine houses under his responsibility. But yeah, in-house day-to-day stuff, it's the house captain. It's his responsibility for everybody to make sure that everything gets done. It's supposed to get done that day, that every scene that we go on, that he oversees the operations of everything that we're doing. And then also just day in and day out, getting along, training, getting the grass cut, getting the engine. If something's wrong with our apparatus that day, that we take it to the shop and then it gets fixed or gets repaired. Or if we need a new axe or if we need a new piece of equipment, that he's the one who's responsible for all that stuff. And yeah, trying to make grown men get along or work well together isn't easy, obviously, especially in our dynamic. We're not in an office. This is essentially our home. We're there a third of our lives. And for a full 24 hours on a shift, we may all have a great day and work well together and have a lot of laughs and work hard together. And some days we're screaming at each other and over whatever. It's hard to separate home life and firehouse life when both of them are just big families. So you do your best that you can not to bring one to the other, but at the same time, it's such an intimate environment that it's not just like having a regular coworker. You're with that guy day in and day out in the middle of the night, when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're beat down. You're with these people all the time in the middle of the night.
And you're all like sleeping in the same room too.
Yeah, we have a big bunk hall. The captain sleeps in the captain's room, but we have a big bunk hall. And every night there's 9 guys snoring or whatever in the bunk hall. And we got fans going, trying to drown out all the noises. And yeah, it's a very interesting place to be.
You're at house number 1.
That's right.
And my understanding is you guys have some unique responsibilities, including the river.
Yeah, at our engine house, we call it the big house. Like I said, it's a double house. So we've got an engine company there, engine company 1 or pumper 1, and then we've got rescue squad 1. But a part of our house is we're a part of the collapse rescue task force, the Marine Unit Task Force. Part of our responsibility is we're all specially trained in numerous rescue disciplines, including like rope rescue, confined space, trench rescue, collapse rescue, swift water rescue, dive, and boat operations. So part of our responsibility is also the Mississippi or any flood flooding situation in the city or river, we do have a few boats that we are responsible for and that we train on consecutively. So yeah, and a lot of additional equipment, a lot of more responsibility, and a lot of extra training is required to maintain your status at our engine house.
The Mississippi River seems like a pretty intense place to be out operating in. What are the types of scenarios on the river that you have to respond to?
Oh, there's all kinds on the river. The river is a very dangerous place. I believe the Mississippi is the second biggest inland port in the country. So there's a lot of commercial equipment out there. There's a lot of workers up and down the river. So a lot of the calls that we get out there could be like a barge worker that's had a medical condition, or we've had a few barge fires that have happened out there. And then unfortunately, we do have a lot of jumpers off bridges in our area. So we were doing a lot of jumping in the river, trying to find that person that jumped, if they survived or not, or locate a body, basically.
And you guys will even dive into Mississippi, is that right?
Yeah. Let me put it this way. No, we should not. It's black water. It's moving water. Even though most of our guys are very good divers and considered public safety divers, it's just a bit too dangerous. There's too much in that river. There's too much junk. There's too much trash. There's cars. So things are still moving below the surface down there. So diving in there is a last resort if we have to. If it's near to the shore, if we're trying to do a recovery of some sort, if it's near the shore, we will dive within so many feet of the shore and depth. But for the most part, no, we try to avoid diving in that river.
Yeah, I could imagine. But will you get in the water at the surface, or is it just too intense?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, we do that year round too. We go out there and we'll train. So we have swift water suits that we put on to be in the water to help us with weather, obviously our cold conditions, but also a little bit of, because it's basically considered hazardous material, that river is. There's a lot of fuel in that river. There's a lot of coal and just a lot of trash. So we'll get out there a couple times a year and we'll jump in the river and play victims and to have rescue scenarios going on and be out there running the boats around like crazy and throwing rescue swimmers off the side, trying to create situations that we know we may face at some point. So to challenge ourselves and make sure we're up on our games and we're taking care of our skills.
I mentioned at the beginning, you're also a SWAT medic. What does that mean? What does a SWAT medic do?
On our department, we have the privilege of working with our St. Louis local SWAT team and our regional bomb and arson team. So what that means for us as firemen is we're allowed to be a part of those teams as a medic for them. It started about maybe 15, 16 years ago. A lot of it had to do with the civil unrest that our city has gone through over the years, but there was a realization that these teams needed somebody on standby with them or in their stack with them that was capable of treating them for the types of traumas and injuries that they're going to see. So about 16 years ago, we came up with a plan to get together and made special criteria and had an application process and a physical agility test and had some requirements in terms of what licenses or training you had to have to be on the team. And it started from there. It's been an awesome experience working with those guys over all these years. They're a great group of police officers. They are some of the best guys I've ever worked with, to be honest with you.
So what does this mean? Are you like all kitted up, look like a SWAT guy, and you're right there with them?
I do, yeah. So I essentially look just like they do, except for I am not carrying their rifles that they're carrying. I'm there to provide a service of just treatment with them. But yes, I do have I have a full kit on, a helmet. I look exactly like they do, basically, other than having the weaponry on me. So depending on the scenario, I may or may not be in the stack with them. If there's an active shooter situation or if there's something going on in a bigger building in there that they've got to move through, then we will be in the stack until we can get us to a safe location so they can secure the area. But for most warrants and things that are happening in the city, no, we'll be outside behind cover or behind their Bearcat is what they call it. We'll find cover there while they go in and do their thing. And we just stand by and hope nothing happens.
The way you describe this, I just imagine this is a fairly select group of firefighters that get to do this. I just imagine there's not a lot of you all assigned to the city SWAT team.
No, there's not. I believe there's about 15 of us total. So over the years, we've lost a few guys to retirement or gone to different departments, and we've recruited a few since then. But I won't say it's super competitive, but since we don't have an open application process very often. The guys that are interested always we end up recruiting through, like you had asked about the engine house, who comes and goes. We try to do our best to pick specific people for the job because we want to make sure they get along well with the entire team. They may be a great firefighter, they may be great as being an EMT or a paramedic, but that doesn't mean they're actually going to get along with the characters on the other side. So we try to make sure that the people that we're bringing on are going to be as fluid and work well with at all the characters and personalities that we've got on the other side as well.
Yeah, I know you're being a little bit humble, but I just imagine it's a very selective group that they're not just going to bring on anybody to stand right next to them as they do their job.
It's been a gift, my friend. I thoroughly enjoy being a part of those and working with those guys. Like I said, they're some of my favorite people. I have a lot of fantastic friends and mentors on the fire department, but working with these guys has been a true gift.
So what are you guys up to when you go out with them? What are the common scenarios that you're responding to? And we don't see a lot on the news about the SWAT teams going out. Is this something that happens once a month? Or are you guys out there every day? What's going on?
It's changed over the years, and a lot of it has to do with politics. But years ago when I was first on the team, they were kicking in 20, 25 doors a week on search warrants. And then throughout the years, it would slow down. It would be a couple times a week. And I'd say on average, they're doing maybe 5 to 10 warrants a week. The SWAT team's a full-time team, so that's their primary job. So a lot of their day is obviously doing some police work, but they doing a lot of training together and then prepping for the next call outs or whatever. And they're always on standby, obviously, if there's a barricaded person or if there's a standoff or if there's just anything or an active shooter of some sort or some kind of threat, they're always ready. But for the most part, what we do with them is mostly warrants when they're issuing warrants throughout the city.
So these are arrest warrants?
Yes, for all types of different things.
Why is SWAT needed to go serve an arrest warrant? Because we hear you get pulled over, somebody gets pulled over and they have an arrest warrant. It seems on the surface, it seems like routine police work, but I know St. Louis City is not very routine.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what that actual criteria is.
These must be serious people they're going after.
Yes and no. I don't know how you really answer that.
It's not like they're going to go serve a warrant for somebody shoplifting. They're going for somebody that did something a little bit different.
Yeah, it's not as often that we're doing going after any kind of white collar criminal. I can say that. A lot of it is that people wanted for all different types of reasons. A lot of them are usually violent actions that they're going after these guys for, or it could be everything from human trafficking to selling fentanyl and drugs and stealing cars and breaking and entering. And some are wanted for murder, some are wanted for all kinds. The list goes on and on.
I'm going out of order now, but what you just said reminded me of a question I wanted to ask. Do you remember your first fire?
I do, actually. Yeah. I don't remember exactly how long I'd been out of the academy. It was probably within a week or two, probably. And it was actually, my first fire was actually in a county jurisdiction just outside of our city, and we went there for mutual aid to assist in the fire. And it was like more of a mercantile style building, which means there's usually a business on the ground level and there's residences up top. And the fire was on the second floor in the residence, and the surrounding department was nice enough to give me their tip or their hose, and I was able to go inside with my senior man and go upstairs and put the fire out.
What was that like? You'd put all this training in, were you like, yes, finally I'm here to get the job done? Or you're like, oh man, this is real.
Yeah, it's all of that. There's obviously an adrenaline dump. There's excitement, there's fear, there's clumsiness, there's confusion. And luckily, what always seems to come to the forward is your senior guys or your guys that have been on the job for years. They just guide you. They take you where you need to go. If you're heading the wrong direction, they'll say, hey, kid, turn around. And they make it seem so nonchalant when just utter chaos is happening that it helps bring your level of stress down. When everybody's calm and quiet or reserved or talking over the radio with just as calm as can be, it helps bring all the anxiety and the stress levels and your heart rate and everything back down. But if everybody was screaming, it would just add to the chaos, and it'd be, I don't know, it'd be crazy. But
that's the leadership principle right there, isn't it? It's no matter what leadership role you're in, you have to remain calm under stress. All that extra energy and wasted emotion isn't going to get the job done. It's a distraction. So you got to stay calm.
100%. That's a huge part of emergency services. All first responders are the same way. Whether you're a police officer, you work for EMS, or you're on the fire department. Obviously, every call you're going on is probably somebody's worst day. That's probably the most likely scenario. So you showing up and screaming your head off after everybody else is sitting there losing their mind, it doesn't help the scenario. You come in, you bring a calm presence, you speak politely, and regardless of what's going on, you stay at a composure. And that's what all of our older senior guys do. And that's a lot of them, we call them the old salty guys, because they'll be over there on the side when hell's breaking loose, and they'll just be walking nonchalantly and doing everything calm and collected, and like they've been doing it their entire life, which they have. But it's definitely a presence that everybody feels, and that it's much needed and under all those scenarios and under the situations.
So how did these old salty guys grade you after your first fire?
I do remember, but I can't repeat exactly what was probably said to me for the next few working days. But at the end of it, after they poke fun at you and they make fun of you, and they probably earn your first nickname if you do end up getting one of those scenarios. But then when they're making fun of you, that means that's good. That's a good thing. The harder they are on you, that's a good thing. That's a part of our process and our culture is that's how we get along. And that's how we work through a lot of these situations and calls that we go on. Is there's a lot of love in poking fun and ball busting and breaking each other down, really.
Yeah, that's when you know you have become part of the team, right?
100%. Yeah. If they're not messing with you, that's not a good sign.
I want to cover a couple other things real quick. One is Missouri Task Force 1. What's that?
That is an all-hazard, all-response federal team. There's a bunch of them throughout the entire country. I can't say that every state's got teams, but I know quite a lot of the states do. Some teams have more than one team. I believe California has 4 teams. If I stand corrected, Florida has quite a few teams. Missouri only has 1 team. But we are a deployable asset to emergency responses nationally, essentially. You can get deployed from...
Nationally?
Yes.
So not just the state?
Yeah, not the state. Not just the state. That's correct. Our team's deployed all over. For each flood, all the floods in Kentucky, they went to Joplin. They're deployed everywhere for whatever the scenario may be in the country. You're on a rotation of teams. And so I'm trying to think of how I'd explain this, because each month we'll get basically a recorded message from FEMA, and they'll say, hey, red team is primary this month, blue team is secondary, and Missouri Task Force 1 is 5th in the national rotation. If the incident would have to be pretty big and they have to deploy 5 other, we'd have to be the 5th team to be deployed if that's how it's presented to us. Or we might be that month, we might be number 2, or whatever the case may be. But so that's how it works. I'm not sure how to really explain that one. It's
You mentioned it's like an interagency type team. What does that involve? Is this folks from the military, National Guard, police units? Who all is a part of this thing?
So on our team, we've got everything from rescue specialists. These are some of the different job categories. And you've got a medical specialist, we've got logistics specialists, we've got rescue specialists, we have structural engineers. We do have some physicians on the team. There's no police officers, because we're not law enforcement by any means. That would be more like the National Guard or some agency like that.
Aren't you, because you do helicopter training, so what is it? Is that from the National Guard?
Missouri Task Force 1's helicopter rescue team, actually, it's not a FEMA team. It's a state team. That's a kind of a sketchy one, because I'm not sure like how to lay that out correctly. It's a state asset team. It's not a FEMA team. So the helicopter team would not be deployed to Kentucky. We're only a state asset. So something would have to happen within the state. Or if we were to get called by Texas, because they've got a helicopter rescue, if they were like, hey, we need your guys' help to come down here and do this, that may happen. But for the most part, it's a team. It's a state asset. It's not a FEMA asset.
It sounds like you're able to use those resources for training purposes so that you do get helicopter training should you have to use that skill set wherever.
Like all these assets and all this training stuff all happens in the same jurisdiction, on the same house. They're not really integrated. Like when I was on the helicopter rescue team as an 8 helicopter search and rescue technician, I still had to do my FEMA task force position as a rescue specialist over there that had no helicopter asset. So it was two different positions under two different authorities, but are able to utilize one another as long as politically is approved. But yeah, we did work with Missouri Army National Guard out of Jeff City. That's who we kind of collaborate everything with. We utilize them, and we're just the dopes on a rope, essentially.
And I know you were deployed in the big floods in Kentucky for quite a while, right?
I did a 2-week deployment over there, yeah. I don't remember the year. There's been so many deployments over there in the last 8 years. Yeah, and I actually don't remember the exact location. Yeah, we were there for 2 weeks. It was devastating. Obviously, that region is very mountainous and very foresty, and the trees are tremendously tall. But I'll never forget when we pulled up there. If you looked at the trees seemed to be hundreds of feet tall. And if you looked up at the trees, over halfway of the height of the trees was a mud line. And that let you know like how high that water actually was. It was unbelievable. You just look around and be like, I cannot believe this entire place was underwater and the water was that high. And it just destroyed everything. All the homes were picked up and moved football fields away, and cars were everywhere, and it just completely devastated that region. It was unbelievable to see.
And you were there for search and rescue?
Yeah. So we were there, like I said, we were there for 14 days. So basically what we did every day is we just did a lot of reconnaissance and went out on boats and ATVs and by foot and just tracked and searched and looking for people. We're utilizing a lot of local resources in terms of people saying that, that someone's still missing, or all these people in these areas are all accounted for. But in this region, we haven't heard from this family or from these people here. So we're basically out there just searching and hoping.
Again, this sounds like a position that not a lot of firemen get assigned to, something you had to volunteer to go pursue.
Yeah, it is definitely definitely a position that you have to look into and put the effort into getting it. It's not something that's asked, obviously. It's made up of first responders from all over the state. And I think we even have some from other states that are a part of our team. I don't remember how many people are on the team. It's a couple hundred, but I don't remember exactly how many people are on the team.
I think the theme of your career that I hear is, someone very dedicated to the craft and profession, constantly seeking to improve themselves, volunteering for very perhaps rare and unique opportunities. So I imagine you're a standout member of the St. Louis Fire Department.
I couldn't answer that. You'd have to ask my peers. I will say this, it is by far the greatest job in the world. There's no doubt about that. So I'm sorry for any of those of you that did not get involved or don't understand what it fully is, but it is bar none the greatest job in the world.
Good for you. I'm happy that you found your calling and are excelling at it, and I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you, Nick. It was an honor to be here with you.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, sir.